Welcome back, everybody, to the Critics Corner. I am still Andrew Branca with the Waxahachie Sun. I'm here with my illustrious colleague, movie lover, and friend, Mr. David Dunn. How are you today, David?
I have recovered from our newest movie this week, Andy, which we will talk about here in a minute. But yeah, I'm fully recovered. My tissues are thrown away. I'm not a blotchy, teary-eyed mess. I'm back to health.
I blame you. You made me cry. Not cool, bro.
I didn't mean to. I didn't know.
It's your fault. You're not supposed to do that, man.
I didn't know. I didn't know what we were in the store for, dude.
You just saw the pretty box art cover art and said, "Ooh, shiny! I want to watch." That's all you saw.
No, I saw Liam Neeson as Groot, and I was interested.
Yeah, you have a man crush on Liam Neeson. That's okay. That's healthy.
I have a man crush on Groot and Liam Neeson, so this was kind of a match in heaven.
A killer tree, so hey.
To be fair, he didn't actually kill anybody in this movie.
That's true. He did terrorize people, though. But the movie we are talking about and giving a hard time is called A Monster Calls. Came out in 2016. You since you have the most against this movie, why don't you take it away there, my friend, and unleash your fury, which is unbridled and just, I guess.
I don't have anything against this movie. I'm giving it a very hard time because of the emotions it made me feel, but I don't have much negative to say about this movie at all. So, A Monster Calls is based off of a novel by Patrick Ness. He actually wrote this novel from the idea of another author named Seo Ben Daoud, who passed away from cancer before they could write this story. Monster Calls is basically about this kid named Connor O'Malley, played here beautifully by Lewis McDougall, who is going through so many problems. His mom is sick with cancer. His grandma is talking about potentially taking him away. He's being bullied at school. There's an absent dad that's out of the picture. Just a lot of issues compounded into one for this, unassuming little kid. And one day, he comes across a amazing sight. A monster beckons before him. The monster is basically a Groot ripoff from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, with a wonderful voice performance here by the one and only Liam Neeson. I've always wanted to see this movie because the filmmaker I had a lot of respect for, Spanish filmmaker J.A. Bayona. He did the 2012 disaster movie called The Impossible, starring Naomi Watts, Ewan McGregor, and actually a very young Tom Holland at the time. And this was his follow-up feature, basically this dark fantasy drama film about this boy and this talking tree. And I didn't know what to think of this movie before going into it, Andy, but all I can say is it is a beautiful, touching, gripping, emotional, stirring, and tearful narrative that just gives you all of the feels. I make no exaggeration when I say I haven't cried in a movie like this since seeing Schindler's List from 1995. Granted, very different movies, but this movie made me cry just as much as that movie did.
Yeah, this was a really good movie. Very tough, very tough topic to cover. I mean, nobody likes to talk about death or losing a loved one, and it's not really talked about in society. It's more of, okay, this happens, then you go do this, or it's really glamorized in Hollywood where you have the proverbial where the friends and family sit around the bed and they're around the loved one and they're holding their hands, and then they say I love you or something, and then that one just expires out and dies in peaceful bliss. This basically shoves that cliche into the trash can and sets it on fire. It shows that death is not easy. It's not Uh, it's not a cliche. Everybody grieves or goes through it or finds their new normal in a different way. And sometimes it can be a little destructive. Sometimes you're just angry about the whole situation, not necessarily the people that are trying to help you. And I think the director of this film captures that magnificently.
He really does, Andy, and there, like you said, very heavy topics in this movie. Would be hard to do in any sort of a format, but this movie handles it in a very sensitive and a very cathartic and really a very satisfying way. It kind of feels like, going through the grief process, because really this kid Connor O'Malley, he's going through his own grief. You're experiencing at the same time with him, and you're figuring out your emotions at the same time that he is. I want to touch on the monster for a second, because Liam Neeson really did a great job as the monster in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I was wondering how he was going to be utilized, because obviously, big giant talking tree monster. You expect him to smash some stuff, but no, he tells stories. He tells Connor O'Malley he's going to tell him 3 tales, and he expects a 4th tale in return. So basically, he acts as the story's narrator, more or less, which seems unusual at first, but then the more you dive into it, he has a lot of wisdom. He has a lot of perspective. He has a lot of really profound things to say through basically these children fantasies, essentially. And they're the kind of stories you listen to. You're like, you keep thinking about it. Yeah, I've seen the movie, a long time ago now, and I'm still thinking about those tales several hours later. Like, it just sticks with you.
Well, in a way, the stories and such kind of remind me of, talking with my grandfather. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
just the how he would give his advice sometimes through, narratives, through stories, through experiences he shared about his life, and you'd really have to concentrate on what he was saying to get the meaning, and that's what really Liam Neeson did with this character. You couldn't see him physically, but the way he uh, used his voice to bring this character to life was, unlike Vin Diesel, was absolutely amazing and incredible. The other point I want to touch on this movie was the visual aspect of it. When the monster told the story, it almost seemed like it was a watercolor painting as he was telling these stories, and I thought that was a very beautiful aspect to bring those to life rather than using CGI or traditional animation where, after during the first run, it might look great, it might look stunning, but, a few years down the road, it's really dated, it looks aged, it doesn't look well. This is 5 years later, and this still looks pretty, pretty incredible. Not pretty, really, really incredible. And I think it has that staying power to be able to project that power and of that story to future audiences.
I really love the animation in this movie too, Andy. And I was surprised I liked the animation, because you've seen that watercolor, overly saturated kind of look in several movies now. Obviously, these movies are not the same level, but you've seen this kind of art style with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that cinematic reboot. You've seen it with Jonah Hex. And every time they do it, I hate it. Like, I'm like, okay, this is live action. You're showing me this comic book crap. Like, why is this? But this movie, not only does it look colorful and stylized, and it's visually very striking, it also works organically with the story. Like, there's a reason why these characters are designed the way they are, the way everything looks the way it does, and it relates to Connor O'Malley's mother. I'm obviously not going to give any spoilers, but there's a reason why this movie visually looks the way it does, and it is integrated into the story very, very beautifully.
Say that again. It has that same abstract quality as the stories.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
artwork has that.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, I don't want to skip over this part, because I think this is very, very important. Lewis McDougall as Connor O'Malley is freaking brilliant. And I don't say that lightly, because normally whenever I see a kid has like a starring role, like a front and center role over the likes of Sigourney Weaver, Liam Neeson, Felicity Jones, Toby Kebbell, anytime you see that, you're just kind of like, oh gosh, how bad is this performance going to be? Because we remember the Phantom Menace days. We know how bad children performances can be. This was a amazing performance from Lewis McDougall. He's sensitive, he's sweet, he has a soft side to him. He's sincere. He's a great kid, but in the really tearful moments where he really comes to grips with his situation, the reality he's facing, and the reality he'll have to face, he really brings out the emotion in these moments. And he doesn't feel so much like he's acting as much as he is, like you said, grieving. There was one scene in particular where he's just venting to the monster about what's going on with his mom and why she's not getting better. And if you ripped the monster from that scene entirely, like it was just Connor O'Malley talking to a tree, it would feel very vivid. It would feel like you're intruding on somebody else who's going through this traumatic situation. And quite a few times, he made me cry very, very ugly. Like he made me feel for this kid, man. Like, holy crow.
Yeah, I felt that was very honest. I mean, I've talked to uh, my sister-in-law, for example. She lost her mom to cancer, and my brother said, yeah, there was kind of moments like that she went through like that, and that was very similar, and I found it very, very genuine, and just nothing that was just fake about it. I mean, you can't that's an emotion that you can't really you either can show it the right way or you can show it the wrong way, and he did an outstanding job.
Yeah, I mean, God, and I think you said a great word, which is honest. The movie is very, very, very honest with its subject matter. Even though the characters struggle with being honest with themselves about the situation and with, coming to grips with what they're dealing with, the movie is very honest in with this subject matter, with these situations, with what people have to go through, and it does a beautiful job just trying to communicate to its audience that yeah, it's very hard to accept these tragedies as fact, as reality, but when you do, you start to help yourself towards a path of healing. There was an amazing moment in this movie. Again, not giving many spoilers away, but Connor was upset because the monster, he thought he was called to heal his mother. And the monster says, I did not come to heal your mother. I came to heal you. And that really reminds you that whenever you're dealing with medical episodes like this, that person really isn't the only victim. It's
Yeah.
also their family and friends and everybody else that their lives have touched. Like, it's just it's so profound.
Yeah. And I would say the other theme in this movie is not only loss, but is confronting hard truth. And
Mhm.
that's very much on display. And I mean, we've talked about Connor O'Malley, we've talked about Liam Neeson, but Sigourney Weaver, man, she plays a grandmother in this movie. She's not really talked about a lot. I mean, she was really big in the '80s with the Aliens franchise, and that really kind of made you know her kind of a household name, so to speak. But she's kind of had kind of a sweeper kind of a career, but she's done some really good work over the years, and I would say this one included in that.
Definitely. And yeah, I would say out of Sigourney's dramatic roles, this one's definitely the more touching. She feels like the middle woman, more or less. Like obviously, Connor's going through his own grief. His mother is dealing with her own pain, but she's kind of the woman in the middle, trying to keep things together as best as she can. There's quite a few times in this movie where she feels very, very powerless in doing so. I definitely loved her inclusion in the movie. And while she's definitely not as front and center as Lewis McDougall and Liam Neeson is, she definitely served a vital part in the story. She serves a vital role in Connor's story, and she was a really good like emotional anchor for this movie. Aside from Felicity Jones, which holy crow, she was also amazing in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, if Lewis McDougall made me cry the most in this movie, Felicity Jones made me cry the second most times.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. It was just wow. It was. I don't know if I'd have to wait a long time before I would see it again. It just rips you so raw emotionally. It was great. I really enjoyed it, and you made me cry. That's not cool.
I'm sorry, Matt.
It's
I
okay.
didn't mean to.
It's okay. I'll have to get you in the next time. So I got the perfect movie. I'll do it with you too. So
Oh God, I'm terrified. I'm
yeah, you
terrified.
should be. So we've come to that point where we have to give a rating for this. So I'll let you go first.
Solid 10, Andy. I weighed back and forth between a 9 and a 10 because the movie is very gradual. It does take time to build up its pace, and it is definitely very hard to watch, but hard to watch doesn't necessarily affect quality. And this movie is exemplary with its message, with its execution, with its telling, with its emotions, with its writing, its direction. It is an immaculate picture, and I would recommend it to anybody with a warning that you most likely will be sobbing by the time this movie ends. I know I did.
Oh yeah. For me, I'd give it a 8, 9. I thought it was really good. But yeah, if you have kids, I would highly suggest that uh, don't let them see this movie. It's not. This is not Monsters Inc. This is a very serious movie. Um, maybe better for somebody who's a teenager. Who's a little bit more mature, but definitely it's not something to watch with your kids or anything. I mean, but overall, I just thought it was just a fantastic movie, beautifully done. Wow, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see more from this guy and what he's gonna do with his career here. This
Well, let me just offshoot of that real quick. Have you seen Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom?
yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately,
Huh?
unfortunately,
Unfortunately, exactly. I think that's something we should talk about another time. But yeah, that director, after he made this amazing movie, went on to make Fallen Kingdom. I don't know what that says about him, but I hope his career advances beyond that very quickly because
yeah.
God knows J.A. Bayona is a much better filmmaker than that.
Maybe he'll take a U-turn and just fix it there. I mean, to be fair enough, from Fallen Kingdom, we did get that famous Chris Pratt meme, so that's something.
True. So not a complete loss.
Okay, well that's gonna do it for us here at the Critics Corner this week. So if you guys have any questions, comments, movie suggestions, please give us an email or write us a message on Facebook. So that's gonna do it for today. So we'll see you guys next week at the corner, and take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.